Hello, everyone. Sorry for huge delay. Well, we're not even sure if it's still working. Please let us know. Yeah, it's actually impressive how everything is. It's as confusing as it can only be. I don't know why this. It's actually impressive that Google is making so much money and it's still so confusing that they wouldn't make it easier for the people who do it. Hello, everyone, again. We are still not clear if it's working or not working. So let us know, because it shows to us in StreamYard that we are online, but for some reason. Oh, okay, wonderful. Okay, this is great. Finally, I see people. Sorry, we just created some kind of crazy, hairy software combination that I don't even totally understand how it works, but okay. Okay, it's amazing. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So okay, let's just start with the questions, I guess. And sorry, it took probably 1 hour to figure out this whole combination of software, how to make it work. At least for now, for tonight. I think there are better ways of making it, but um so we're just gonna do it the way we can right now. So thank you for being patient. I apologize. I didn't realize that this is going to be challenging, honestly. Okay, why don't we just start with the questions? And I'm just gonna use this. I don't know how to remove this StreamYard thing here. Uh, so let's just start with questions. And I don't know. Do you hear me, or you don't even hear me? Um, okay. Well, we'll figure something out a little bit better eventually. Just for now, sorry for this whole mess. Okay, good, good. So let's just start with the questions. Okay, so I think the first one was David Schwab. Oh, okay, guys, can we it's kind of moving really fast here. So if you don't mind, let's just kind of slow down for now, and I'll kind of once I answer the questions, I'll say, okay, let's add more questions, right? Sorry, but let's just, because otherwise it's kind of hard for me. I'm totally not used to this, how it's done, and please help me to actually be productive. So actually, I see the first one was from Barak Pinhas. In your opinion, how long will the war last, and what will be there? Okay, this is totally speculative questions. I really think we can speculate all day here in all kind of scenarios. We probably somewhat biased, and we hope Ukraine will not do any territorial concessions. That's probably the hard line that's we think perceived in, like, among Ukrainian population, that's a compromise that people not willing to do. That's how we would say. In terms of actual war, look, if Russia does full scale mobilization, um, at this point in this shape, the way Ukraine is, it's just not efficient enough to deal with Russia. And we mean that Russia, at least, let's say, 3.5 times larger than Ukraine, right? Or four, whatever you want to say. Um, and this really means that Ukraine needs to be 4 times more efficient. And Ukraine is probably equally efficient or even less efficient than Russia right now. So in that case, we don't see great outcome. But the problem is really need to understand that it's also Russia is facing a tremendous pressure from the outside world, right? So it's not only fighting with Ukraine. In a way, it's they're fighting with the world, right? It's really speculative. So we're not gonna continue this because we can do it forever. And I'm sure, like, would rather answer really more specific questions. We'll be honest, because this is really broad question, and let's just save time for other, for more specific question. Sion, is Russia most likely to combine two depleted units or replenish them with transfers from the other units that have? So okay, I see the question. It's actually a good question. From what we're seeing, since we saw that force tank division there, it seems to us, and which was from the eastern group east of Kyiv, right? So they basically throwing what they have, and in a way they in desperation mode as well right now, not just in Ukraine in difficult situation. They're in desperation mode because for them things don't quite work out well, and they really need to pressure Ukraine into some kind of peace agreement where they can get somehow territorial concessions. This is not, in our opinion, it's not about this NATO, EU, all of that stuff. This is just that is just kind of like a cherry on top of the cake, right? The real deal here is we like for Russia, we want Crimea for sure, and then we kind of still want to have Donbas, those two, Donetsk and Luhansk regions. But that's probably something that for Russia is on the table as a compromise. And then even more sort of ideal for Russia, okay, we want to take the whole thing, including part of the Zaporizhia region and then Kherson region, so that there is a connection from Dnieper River to Crimea, so that they can have supply of water. But in terms of going, sorry, and I probably to a little bit didn't answer very specifically. We believe that Russians will use units as is, um, because they don't really have time to sort of call it replenish. They don't have 1 month or 2 months to do that. So, and they really need to do it right now. So whatever they have, they do it. They just throw into the battle. Um, so let's just do David Schwab. What reasonable to send weapon systems could have an impact in Ukraine? Advanced drones hear you. So what we really think it would be great stuff is self-propel. I don't know if I pronounce it right. Self-propelled howitzers. Specifically, we know that UK was thinking about sending AS-90. That would be really great stuff for Ukraine, because the way it works, like how Ukraine stops this armored, pincers or whatever. So typically, the way it goes is uh, there is infantry with, let's say, javelins, or actually there are good Ukrainian anti-tank rockets called Stugna. So they put them on a front line, and the effective distance is 2.5 kilometers, something plus minus like 2 kilometers. So what they do, they shoot couple of tanks, and the rest of the column stops because they're kind of afraid and trying to figure out what to do. And then what happens next? Usually, Ukrainian artillery hits the area where the whole column is, and destroys significant portion of it. So then that column, the whole thing kind of falls apart. They need to really withdraw, regroup, and do things like that. So that's how it works. So Ukraine has howitzers, but they old Soviet ones, right? They're not really good at in terms of like precision, um, you know, like in communication, coordination within them. So this would really enhance and help Ukraine. Obviously, airplanes to close the sky, but very, I don't know, we're very skeptical that Ukraine will get any airplane, like meaning jet fighters, right? Just fighter airplanes. Really, like Ukraine doesn't need like uh, ground attack airplanes or helicopters. It's really about just fighter jet aircraft, because if they have that, then they can close the sky, prevent Russian, tactical. Because what Russia is really using, why it's bad, they're using Su-34 tactical bombers and Su-25 as well, like ground attack airplanes. So if and plus assault or attack helicopters. And so if Ukraine had fighters, they would just prevent those type of airplanes to come into Ukrainian airspace, and obviously fight with Russian fighters. But this is probably kind of impossible in our view, because the whole indication were that this is not going to happen. And what we mean is not like closing sky by some other countries, but transferring actual jet fighters to Ukraine. So that those two items, and obviously more anti-tank rockets, man-held anti-aircraft rockets, and probably more advanced anti-aircraft systems, because Stinger is obviously is not that advanced, right? So we understand that this is kind of the lowest in its not efficiency, but how to say better, uh, in terms of its capabilities, right? So Ukraine probably needs something more advanced. And yes, and then drones, that would be very important, very and great, and more reconnaissance drones, as opposed to just like Bayraktar type of assault drones, because you won't be able to have, like, let's say 100 of assault drones, but 100 of reconnaissance drones will make a huge difference in Ukraine, because then you can coordinate it with those self-propelled howitzers that we discussed before, and really you can really effectively stop Russian tanks, and then you can actually attack with those as well very effectively, without being and minimize the losses. So okay, so this was kind of a little bit long answer, but hopefully that works. So that was for David Schwab. Let's move to the next one. In Borak Pinhas. So okay, no, sorry, is that sounds like it's repeating or something? I'm just really confused right now. That was answered. Ivan Palyanite. Please tell about your experience and background in war analysis. Okay, we're not going to discuss personal information. C. Durand 510. In your opinion, is Slavyansk the new center of gravity in this war? We think that this is actually not Slavyansk, but Barvinkova, which we showed on the map. Actually, let's look at the map right now. So, and we really don't know how to remove this thing from yard stream. Jesus. Uh, okay. So Barvinkova is here where this blue yard stream is, and the reason it's important, you can even see Russian, like this is updated actually map for today of this Izium bridgehead, which is essentially broken at this point, and Ukrainian side is really doing last like ditch effort to maintain it. Okay, well, we don't have it here great either. Let's look at the big map then. So if they go to Barvinkova here, then you can basically, you probably will not be able to do like complete pocket here, but it will be enough. It will force basically Ukrainian command to withdraw all of these troops right from here to this axis basically. So that really means that the Russians will accomplish what they were wanted, is to capture Donetsk, because they essentially captured Lugansk region. So they will capture Donetsk region. So that's that this whole thing is going to be center of the gravity. And seems like Mariupol is kind of is, and but it's probably waning in terms of Ukrainian troops there are probably won't last terribly long. Okay, let's move. Did Russia change from BDG to division system and mobilize? No, Russia did not mobilize. That's the first part of the question. Uh, no, it didn't change to just division system and in our opinion, this BTG stuff, it's really creation of armchair generals in the West. That's not how, in our opinion, and obviously this is just our opinion, not how Russian army is structured. It is structured in a system of brigade level, like so. Basically, the two building blocks of Russian army. Well, the main one actually was brigades, and then sometime probably around 2014 2013 they started creating divisions in probably in preparation to this whole war as a result. So now they have combined like kind of hybrid brigades and then divisions, right? So that's kind of what they have as the main kind of tools. An army and all that stuff, that's just kind of, this is just very organizational, like more like abstract systems. But um on the ground, what really kind of works as a unit level is either brigade or division. So that's what they have. Where's 29 army? We don't know where, like we're not even in a way we think like in terms of armies it's to extent irrelevant. We really track this kind of like ground level units, which means brigades and divisions. Unfortunately, it's super hard to track like regiments or battalions. So we wish we could, but then on the other hand, the positive of it is that they're relatively small, so they don't tend to make big difference, right? What really moves the needle, like let's say, it is our divisions and brigades. So that's what we're really focused on. I think there, so Sion, I think there is an option to force chat to be slow. Okay. Yeah, I don't, thanks for suggesting. We will really play. We really didn't expect that with so much business going on around YouTube and how much ad revenue they're taking in, and that this is so still so not worked out. But probably our miss that we didn't prepare and invest enough time. Um, in your opinion, so this is Drive. In your opinion, is are Ukrainian reports about Russians aircrafts, helicopters correct? Um, they're they probably not perfect. We don't think they're perfect, but directionally they probably right. We don't feel that Ukrainian side is exaggerating equipment losses. We don't believe this, like I think right now it's floating like 18,000 of dead Russian soldiers. We don't believe that number. We think it's lower. Probably by now it's probably approaching 10,000. It's all obviously estimates, very it's not it's very hard to do any kind of precise science in this. It's really quite a bit of art here. So in our view, it's not more than 10,000, and it's probably more like somewhere in the ballpark, 6, 7, 8,000, more realistic number of the dead soldiers, right, on the Russian side. And we believe something probably similar is happening. Actually, we believe that Ukrainian side is probably has a little bit more casualties, mostly driven by militia, because militia really took the heat of the Russian invasion in the north. Really, and we would even say that thanks to the Ukrainian militia, it was stopped, because with the units that Ukrainian army had around Kyiv, they would not be able to stop Russian invasion in the north. So we're not sort of trying to say, oh, like Ukrainian troops are bad, or it just militia is numerous, but it's poorly trained, and as a result, they suffered heavy losses because they report about 150 on Onyx. Okay, we're not familiar with like totally Onyx, how they work. Oh, but it's definitely not 2032. Like, I mean, this is for sure like much more. Like, okay, maybe you can say 150 is on the higher side, and 2032 is like, it's probably more like, oh, okay, we saw the pictures, we know the location. Well, this is really you're not gonna be able to that's the whole problem with all of these approaches, like Onyx, what Onyx does, and I think there are other ones similar to it that track tank losses. It's it's not going to be precise in our opinion. Question: How? So this is Raymond May. How will the mud affect the battle? It actually was affecting. Right now, it's actually getting, well, I guess a little bit better. Probably it's start to, well, maybe it's still kind of bad, but it's going to get better in terms of it's going to dry up. And it actually was, which is actually very interesting. So a lot of this Soviet-made tanks, and it doesn't matter, Russian or Ukrainian, it's all Soviet tanks in at the core. They got stuck quite a bit in large numbers. We've seen that, so it does affect quite a bit the mod stuff. Um, then future generation Z. I think NATO will have to get involved. This logic of showing Putin we are afraid to engage makes no sense for the present of the future. We, well, we would say we agree with that, but we believe that um, West is in difficult situation because I think the majority of population is still actually not getting. This is actually really, if we, I think we'll take it back. What this really is actually war between US and Russia, not really actually Ukraine and Russia. I mean, Ukraine is definitely fighting its war, but really at the core, and I think the US population is still not getting that they actually kind of essentially at war with the Russia. And that's part of the problem, that people are not, and this war is because Russia and Ukraine supplying a lot of raw resources to the world market, and because they go up in price, it's very bad for the economies in Europe and in the US, essentially around the world. This essentially can break down the whole economic system in the world, because it's ill prepared to take high inflation, it highly over levered, and it's potentially a recipe for total disaster, like economic disaster in the West. And I mean, Russia is already economic disaster, and Ukraine is like even worse. So this is really difficult situation overall. We don't even know what, like, it's hard. They're extremely hard choices in the West. That's all we can say. How do you know where which of these units are on the map? Because we actually see pictures most of it. Sometimes they kind of say where they are, like by accident mostly. And then over time you kind of accumulate that information, and they in a way it's kind of more or less static, right? And there are other sources from social media how you can figure it out. We're not going to discuss it in detail. Can you make maps that cover each battlefield and more? No, we're doing like we're not getting special reports from Russian army or Ukrainian army. They hide everything. We're trying to get something despite the desire of both sides not to show anything, right? So we kind of squeeze out of like all juice out of the lemon, like almost kind of want to say squeeze juice out of the stone in a way. So I mean, if we had like 20 people, tons of money we can spend. Yeah, you can do more probably. Yes, for sure. And especially like there was discussion with someone like about the buying satellite images, right? With that stuff, you can obviously improve the whole thing to the like totally new level, but they probably expensive in our opinion. Well, RSI, will Russia limit the war effort on the eastern Ukraine or continue pushing afterwards? No, Russia wants the whole Ukraine. Like, they may limit it to just say, oh, okay, we kind of like bite and then we chew what we can kind of chew, and then they will try to bite again. So there is no question, in our opinion, that they coming back to Kyiv at some point. This is not. This is war to. This is all of that story that Russia is feels threatened by NATO and whatever. It just cover for the real reason, which is Russia wants reassemble Soviet Union, and Ukraine is a key component there. Without Ukraine, Soviet Union cannot exist. Basically, cannot be recreated, and they need that for to fight with US basically. So the first step is recreate Soviet Union, then the fighting with US and West, and potentially use China as its ally. So that's kind of how it all goes. Um, Vasilis Karatsvilis. Did you believe that the massacres in Bucha happened? Is it military logical? Um, okay, so, well, first of all, it's like speculative question and it's really emotional question, and we believe it's not going to lead to anything like helpful to understanding about the war, because this is more like topics for propaganda. Like, propaganda, machines on both sides love this kind of stuff, right? Because you see now Russian propaganda machine is saying that the Ukrainian soldiers torturing captured Russian soldiers, and then Ukrainian side says the Russian side is capturing Ukrainian female soldiers that they captured, and like it just this is just you know, and a little bit of everything is happening for sure. No question about it. We do know for sure that what we explained yesterday, that mm, this was not massacre for the hell of massacre, right? Some of it was just like military casualties, right? It's very clear that shells got into the building and killed people. Okay, that's sort of straightforward, right? But there is clearly planned and systemic approach to clean captured territories by Russia of people who can pose threat or resist Russian rule of Ukraine. So that is we know from anecdotal kind of evidence of people telling us that they were what we discussed. There's this special forces brigades, right? And then there's that 140 first regiment, sober, all of this police stuff side. They would go and they seek out people um, who Russia believes is threat to them, and mostly this is mayors of the cities, all kind of like government officials, and with them, it's more first attempt to try to co-opt them to work with them, and then if they refuse, um, depending on this, then it really depends. In some instances, if then they discover that they like strongly pro-Ukrainian, they can kill them. If they just simply refuse, they just beat them up and then they release them. And then also what they also seek out, and this is all um like brain behind this is FSB and GUR. GUR is Главное управление разведки, but this is basically equivalent of FSB, but within the military. So they created this sort of competing just to create competition. So so this is what Russians do have. They have list of people who were like volunteers helping Ukrainian army, collecting money for them, who uh, who were veterans of like war that was going on in the east in Donbas all this time. All kind of like parties that were deemed too aggressively against Russia. So they were coming and actively seeking out those people, and some of those people got killed. So that's a reality of it. So in a way, like Bucha massacre is really, let's say, redirecting to actually in a wrong way the whole. Maybe it's a good for the picture, but this is actually hiding the true, real, um, in a way, cleansing. Like we want to say cleansing of the population of Ukraine based on their political preferences. So that's actually much more dangerous. Okay, sorry for the long answer, but it was not. It's just needs to be explained. It's not straightforward. Um, are you really the new drones? Really the new drones from EU working already? Are they not a game changer? Mm, there is not really much to our knowledge from EU that there is like that many we don't even we're not even aware of any military drones. Mostly what's sort of very like propagandized is Turkish, um, not drones, but well, I guess you can say it's drone. It's really just unmanned air vehicles, UAVs, called Bayraktars. So they're getting a lot of press and attention, but they very few, and they're really not a game changer in our opinion. What is really game changer is actually mass use of drones by the troops on the ground, because like all of this UAVs, it's mostly used by the higher level, command, and then it really means there is a lot of bureaucracy, inefficiency, missed opportunities. The best thing is actually when people on the ground, like soldier on the ground, has something to use. That's really the best. And what we're seeing is mostly this is all those DJIs and now AUTELs. And that's actually was instrumental in how those huge columns were stopped, because with the help of those drones, they were spotted, and then they were severely damaged by Ukrainian self-propelled howitzers. Okay, Georgia. So now Dmitry Telin, Georgia. He's used the Institute of War map. Okay, I don't understand the question. Sorry, but like try to rephrase it in more clear way. Where are you from? Okay, we're not answering personal questions. Georgia Bolt Action Association. So when you say we, okay, are you saying you are Russian? Okay, we're not answering personal questions again. What is the best way to neutralize artillery from a Russian BTG behind tanks and some air cover drones? I think the actually better artillery from Ukrainian side is really the solution to that. And you can use multiple rocket launchers as well. That's also useful. And obviously airplanes, but that's more like a ground attack airplanes, right? Ukraine has them. Mm, but then there is a problem because it's another kind of like another how you call it, ecosystem in the air, right? You need jet fighters, then you need tactical bombers, and you need ground attack um, airplanes. Well, you also need reconnaissance, but that's just more like a just in a very primitive and simple way. You need jet fighters to establish control of the skies, so that then tactical bombers can operate and ground attack airplanes can operate. Obviously, and attack helicopters can operate. But let's just focus on the planes because attack helicopter is essentially very similar to ground attack airplane. And for that, Ukraine does have those Su-25 ground attack airplanes, but the problem is that Ukraine have very few mm, fighter airplanes left, pretty much nothing, and they were inferior to Russian ones. So the key is, I guess, is the fighter airplanes. Once you have those, and if they can establish control of the skies, then you can build anything from there. But if you don't, like, if you don't have that, then the whole thing falls apart, and that's unfortunately a problem for Ukraine. Um, okay, so next one, the odd one to, will it be hard for you UA to continue their attack across Dnieper? I mean, no, I guess you were referring that Russia can destroy the bridges across the Dnieper River. If that's what you mean, yeah. If the Russia does that, that really makes it super difficult, almost honestly impossible. This is actually something that they can do that essentially will, I don't know. In our opinion, it's potentially can give them control of the whole this eastern bank of the Dnieper. Um, then Connor Bird, he was saying that from the point of view, I was Russia. He said, "Okay, I'm honestly confused right now. Like, I don't have time to figure out actually all of this." Future generations, the counter projection is that the Russians are the Nazis attempting to Nazify Ukraine. Okay, okay, we're not gonna answer all of these emotional questions. This is not what we're trying to discuss here. Vadim K, what percentage Ukraine military manufacturing capabilities are destroyed at this point, and are they forced to rely on land, on deal now, and or can they ramp up manufacturing during this war? Okay, that's actually a good question. So probably in our rough estimate, between 70 to 80% of military manufacturing capability is destroyed. Um, and to be fair, it's mostly actually inept Ukrainian government that's at fault of this, because you have the war, and keeping all of the equipment in concentrated places is just plain stupid. This is the only one example of the stupidity. The same goes true for fuel supplies, fuel depots. Is again, they just keep concentrating fuel in one places, and Russia attacks them with the rockets, and in fact will destroy them. The same goes true with all of this. How you call them? Um, this army barracks, right? They continue concentrate a lot of troops in one building, or two buildings next to each other. This is really not intelligent, to put it mildly. In terms of, yes, Ukraine is on a life support right now in terms of receiving weapons. We believe that without supply of weapons, it will, and more importantly, the reason it works is that anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles really help Ukrainian militia, because if it's not trained, it's in a way it's actually very similar to like 1945 Germany, when they were giving like panzer, was it Panzerfausts and all of that to like essentially ordinary citizens, right? So this allows like someone who's really kind of like untrained, doesn't know much about how to fight, but it gives a lot of strengths, right? Because he can just press the button and destroy the tank. So that's why those um, all of that supply of weapons is very helpful for Ukraine, because that's why Ukrainian militia managed to stop Russian troops around Kyiv, right? That was the one of the, otherwise they couldn't do it with just semi-automatic rifles. You're just gonna get destroyed. And even with those tools, they still lost a lot of people. Yes, Ukraine needs to start producing its own weapons, and unfortunately, Ukrainian government is sitting and not doing anything about it. Unfortunately, all they do is just go around and begging, and this is just a very bad psychology that's permeating in Ukraine, especially at the ruling class level, when they really used to be begging around instead of like allowing people of Ukraine to make the things that's needed. And that's really key to actually Ukrainian victory. And if Ukraine is not going to figure that out in the long run, it's done. So that's really the problem there. Okay, Georgia Bolt Action Association. They are unloading armor in the Ukraine right now from Czech Republic. Yeah, but do we know how many BMPs actually giving for free yet? Well, okay, it was okay. It's actually funny, not funny, but it's actually in a way depressing question. So the whole number of BMP was 5, and the whole number of T-72s were 5. So just to tell you, this one forced what? Just let's look at the situation in Izum. So there is a 4th Tank Division, 47th Tank Division, and 3rd Mechanized Division, right? So 3rd Mechanized Division is 90 tanks, 47 tanks, 180, 4th Tank Division 180. This is authorized, right? They have less because force was fighting up in the north, so they lost good amount of tanks. But let's just from authorized number, right? So 180 is 360, and then how much is going to be 450, right? Just authorized strengths, and you have like 2 airborne brigades and potentially 1 tank brigade here trying to stop this. So now think about this: 5 T-72s. If this is just here 450, it's not 450, it's a lot less, right? They probably at best have 250 here. But nevertheless, think about this: 5 versus like how does it change the scale? Not really changing anything. Plus, these T-72s are totally old in terms of it. They don't have this mm, I don't even know how to say it in English, but basically, if you saw, there are like kind of like a tiles on the tank on all of this T-70, all of this like Ukrainian rations. So this is basically explosive that when when the projectile hits that explosive, it explodes and essentially destroys most of the energy, or let's say redirects most of the energy that's that's used by that projectile to basically make a hole in a tank. They don't even have that, so they really like easy targets. So like one hit by the Russian tank and this whole T-72 blows up in fire. And then probably and not pro well and unfortunately problems with just specifically T-72s. uh if you hit them and they're not protected with all of that, what happens is that uh, ammunition inside of it explodes and the whole tank explodes. And that's why you see very frequently when you look at the losses that the turret is usually torn in like far away from the tank. That's actually kind of like a known flaw of T-72s, because that ammunition is poorly inside of the tank, is poorly well, not even poorly protected, but it's kind of like in a way engineering choice, because what they because they wanted to automate loading and remove uh, extra crew member, and because of that, the way it's done, just because like for that reason, you cannot really effectively protect ammunition inside of the tank. So whenever if it's got hit from outside, and then usually that whole ammunition explodes, and that's why you very frequently see torn away turrets of these tanks. And And if it doesn't have that extra protection, it's like guaranteed that it's totally like kamikaze tank. Let's put this way. And yeah, they we believe no, they actually this transfer is actually not free. That's actually for the money. Sorry for the wrong answer, Patrick Plew. Wouldn't it be possible that you could name some of those tactical failures from the both sides? I cannot see that many. Oh, okay. Um, yeah. Let me think about those. But I mean, I don't know if it's tactical or strategic. Is concentrating resources on Ukrainian side everywhere is really dumb, right? Like concentrating fuel, concentrating, soldiers in one place, concentrating, like, military equipment, or concentrating, like, not dispersing the military production is clearly clear mistakes. I mean, I don't know if it's called it tactical or more strategic mistakes. Sounds like they more strategic, but um, well, let's just actually look here. So, mm, yeah, nothing really comes easy to the mind. So let's just kind of. I don't want to waste like time thinking right now. Teach Soul, which has been more impressive in your opinion, Ukraine's army performance or Russian army failure? Mm, yeah, well, good question. It's first of all, it's not really Ukrainian army performance per se. So in a way, it's actually okay. So what happened is Russian army made mistake, right? So that's very clear. Not even Russian army. It's actually even more interesting because it's a political decision how it was done. So it wasn't even like Russian army planned this operation. This was coming from political side, from Putin and like people, like political people around him, that this is going to be police operation because they were so convinced that Ukrainians are willing to, you know, to join Russia at the first opportunity. So that was pressed, in our opinion, on the Russian army. So they kind of, in a way, were forced to do it as a police operation as opposed to actually doing real war. And maybe there was just general delusion in the Russian society. We don't know. So that's one thing. And then Ukrainian army performance. Um, we really like want to attribute a lot of perform like result is really to Ukrainian militia. I will be honest with you, because that's who really stopped all of that. And yes, they were helped by all of this, NLAWs, javelins, basically anti-tank missiles and anti-aircraft missiles. But really, it was just they were backbone of all of this. So in a way, I guess it's I'm impressed by sacrifice of ordinary Ukrainian people who are not members of the army, but they went, joined, and they fought, and a lot of them died. So that's what impressive from my perspective. I mean, everybody probably will have different perspective. Did the vehicles from Australia arrive yet? Not to our knowledge, but it's only 10 vehicles. But like honestly, those vehicles are really like exactly for police operations. They not made for war. Like they totally um, like it's just no. It's those vehicles are totally like wrong tool for the job. Let's put this way, totally wrong tool. Do you? I think they call Bushmaster or something like that. Do you think there will be problems after the war due to the arming of the population? Mm, not really. I don't. No, I mean, I wouldn't. I don't think that Ukrainian population is, how to say, is stupid or crazy at its core. No, I wouldn't expect that. But I mean, there will be some kind of, you know, occasional problems. But it's like, okay, well, if you have a knife, sometimes you cut your hand. But in general, I mean, it's a tool and that works good. Future generation, you just really have a lot of questions. Wasn't even not a NATO are sending help, so we should keep putting us in a decisive way, not to make no sense. Okay, well, this is just unfortunately emotional statements and wishful thinking. Life is much more difficult. I saw U.S. armored Humvees in videos of coming in yesterday. Anyone know how many they have? Yeah, there are a lot of them. Uh, I just don't remember. Like I never was focused. I'll be honest with on like how many Humvees are there, but probably more than 100, and probably more than like might be even 200 or more. But I mean, like the Humvees are not made for war. They again they made sorry for this. They made for how to say for police operations. Just a second. Sorry for this. Um, okay. Um, how effective was T90 in this war, or was it similar to? In our opinion, this I mean, all of this T90, T80, T64, T74, it's essentially one tank with like just different, how to say, different engineer kind of makes slight difference, but at the core, it's the same tank. The only thing is like Russian tanks do have better um like a sighting equipment, so like laser distance measurement systems, and so they are probably more effective than Ukrainian tanks because they were totally not upgraded. So basically it's like how they were at the Soviet Union level, that's kind of what you have basically. So in a way, like yeah, you would say in general Russian tanks are more capable. Not like a cannon, it's the same cannon. It's just better optical equipment and more like optoelectronic equipment. Let's put this way. Um, can ground units with man pads differentiate which country planes are from? Oh, okay. Well, actually, it's pretty hard because the equipment is the same, and it's actually generally hard for that reason. This is actually even bigger problem as a whole, not just for air, like the whole like war. For that reason, you see like Russian troops have this white how to say armbands or red armbands, and then Ukrainian troops have like used to have kind of yellow ones, and now they're switching to blue ones and stuff. So it's because it's hard to distinguish who's who. So this is generally problem in general, and there's probably good amount of friendly fire. um, Georgia Bolt Action Association, think Poland will finish fixing their MiGs and Su-25s and transfer them. It sounds like US doesn't want that to happen, and Poland is too scared. But they scared. Like let's put this way, Poland is next on the list, so they have not, in our opinion, they have nothing to lose, but they still scared. So what can we do about it? Georgia Boltas. Okay, well, Germany said its vehicles were already delivered with artillery as well. Do we have any idea what types of and quantities? To our knowledge, Germany did not send any. What they sent is old Soviet equipment that they still have from Eastern Germany. So that I'll actually, and it's even more complicated. So that old equipment was purchased by some Czech company, and they store it in, I guess, Eastern Germany or maybe even in Czech Republic. And then Ukraine got that, and the Germany just only gave permission. Okay, yeah, you can have it. So that's kind of like what happened there. The same was true with 122. Well, I think the howitzers, like also D20. I think it's called D22 or D30. Sorry, I don't remember. D30 probably. 122 millimeter howitzers from the Soviet Union that Estonia transferred for free actually to Ukraine, but it was like 22 units only. That was actually all German, from Eastern Germany equipment. That basically Germany just say, yeah, you can transfer that stuff. But no, we're not aware. Like, we know that Ukrainian side was asking for Marder armor fighting vehicle. So basically, it's German equivalent of BMP 1, 2, or 3, and Germany refused to sell them. So, to our knowledge, nothing is happening there. And where there is opportunity for Ukraine is with the UK. UK is much more willing to transfer heavy weapons to Ukraine, and that's why I mentioned about this AS-90 self-propelled howitzer, which is pretty good, and that would help Ukraine. And we believe, to our knowledge, there are talks about transferring those to Ukraine, but we don't know exactly where they stand. Again, next time, future generations. It's NATO's fault if Putin survive. Okay, okay, okay. That's just emotional statements is not going to help anyone. Swiss conquests. T90s do have similar casualty rates as other older modernized vehicles. I can judge on the whole efficiency and how much damage they did before getting blown apart. That's what we mentioned. It's the same T-72 tank, basically, right? Just like a little bit more bells and whistles, better sighting equipment, more basically better optoelectronic equipment, like sighting equipment, right? Better, that's the only thing about it. It's at the core. Like, there are more bells and whistles that we probably don't remember at this point. That's why Russia developed this T-14 Armata tank, because all of this T90s, T80s, T7, this is all basically the same variation of the stuff, and it's kind of old, outdated stuff, and you need new equipment. So that's why you see the T90s. They probably have a little bit better survivability rates, uh, because they have better sighting equipment, right? So they have a little bit advantage, but not always. Francisco Rena, what is background? Why? Okay, okay. Then we're not answering personal questions as we said before. Such a long and rambling answer. Okay, well, you can. Thank you for feedback. We'll try to do it shorter, but if you're not happy, you can always leave. Most Russians, future generation Z, that most Russians are engaging a few Western weapon systems. We need to engage them. All stop. Okay. Okay, Generation Z, we're not gonna anymore take questions from you. David Shot, awesome. Okay, thank you very much. Uh, the Georgia Bolt Action Association, Poland announced it's mobilizing its reserves. Okay, we were not aware actually about that news. Do you think they might send their regular army units to Ukraine to support and have the reserves take over daily activities? Well, we do know that their army is small, like was like 150,000 in total, and basically like kind of was before this war was not treated properly. Let's put this way, in a diplomatic way. Now they changed. So, but this is like right now they changed it. The increasing army to 300,000, but it's like a little kind of lateish in the whole thing. Um, so no, we don't think that Poland is prepared to send troops to Ukraine, because people are afraid of Russia. That's very simple. Do you think Ukraine can make a push to Mariupol? We think it's gonna be suicidal in this situation. Ukraine need control, like some kind of protect, some better anti-aircraft systems, and we're not talking about the Stingers and all this man-held stuff. No, like really better ones, so that Russian airplanes are afraid to attack Ukrainian troops on the ground. So that's a necessary condition to be able to push towards Mariupol. And then there is one more that you really need to equip Ukrainian army with better systems, like this AS-90. And then you can try. You at least you have a chance. But right now it will be just massacre of Ukrainian army. Titsol, what happened to the Russian boats that were seen a few weeks ago around Japan? Okay, Sorry, we don't like, we didn't we missed that. We don't know much about it. Alexiche, you pronounce names of cities pretty clear. Do you know some Slavic language? Okay, we're not answering personal questions that we discussed. Francisco, and I am watching your updates every day, and I find them very accurate. You deliver news sooner than the other news sources. Your maps are very good. Thank you very much. Okay, well, thank you for that. I really, really appreciate this. Really, really, really matters to us how you said it. The Mitch Corner, do you really believe Kyiv was just a distraction or they switching from plan A to plan B? No, Kyiv was not distraction. It was a main goal. This is actually kind of like a Russian storyline trying to explain, like, okay, why this whole thing failed, and there was the oh, we really didn't want it. We just like, oh, we just was playing. Think this way. So there are 200 Russian troops, right? And you send 90,000 of them towards Kiev, right? So you leave 110 for the rest of Ukraine, right? For Kharkiv, for Donetsk region, for Mariupol, for Kherson, for Mykolaiv, for Odessa. Does that sound to you like Kiev was not main objective? When you send essentially close to 50% of your troops only at single place. No, it was main objective. It just failed. It was a mistake. It was it was clearly a mistake, even from the perspective that they split their own troops um, into two pieces, Western and Eastern, so they cannot easily kind of like how to say maneuver with their whole. So basically, you have 90,000, but it's actually kind of split into only was like one is like what 50, and the other one was 40. So you cannot like concentrate. That prevents you from concentrating. Like, let's say if you figure out, oh, okay, there is opportunity on the south of Kyiv, let's throw 70,000 there. So you really need to quickly concentrate troops, but you split, you already split your troops into two halves that you cannot even effectively concentrate because you split by the river. So that was, even from that perspective, was a mistake. So there are a lot of mistakes there. But the whole redeeming stuff is that they realize that they made mistake and they did not persist, and they get out. It was that was a really correct move. Okay, Michael Reed. What is the state of Ukraine's reserve brigades? I see that the third tank brigade and the sixth motorized brigade have engaged. Okay, we're not aware about sixth motorized brigade. We never seen that. We never heard of that. Do you think we see more reserve units enter combat in the following weeks? Uh, I think the way it probably will work is that replacement, basically, like all of the regular units that are fighting, they suffering losses. So we think that it's more gonna happen is they gonna be replenished first, so that they can kind of continue fighting, that they are more or less close to their full SRS strengths, and then they will try to build new units. The problem is overall problem is lack of equipment on the Ukrainian side, and that's why they're going around and begging for whatever they can. And again, but again, this is the problem. Instead of actually trying to start producing, you know, they own they don't do, like, Ukrainian government doesn't do anything, like totally nothing, like kind of lets it like kind of like flow on its own, and this is in our opinion terrible approach. um but yes, they training a lot of conscripts and all, yeah, conscripts. There's a lot of volunteers. A lot of this militia units are getting kind of converted, well, not converted, but basically people from there are basically pushed into regular units, kind of like that stuff. So there are a lot of willing people to fight. There is basically one problem is equipment, and the second is just general organizational problem. Ukrainian, like top is not great in terms of organizing things, and just we're not very how to say, we're not feeling great about it. MKW official channel. Do you think if they get these Azov guys, they will stop? No, this is not Azov. No, this is just a propaganda story for the West. Why they do it? Um, okay, 60s brigade. Okay, yeah, okay. So yes, it seems like there is some build up, but look, there are like stories like when they give like DP-27 machine gun, like just so you understand what it is, or Maxim machine gun, right? So, or Maxim probably is the right way to say it. So this is stuff from like Maxim is like World War I machine guns, so you understand what it is. And DP-27, it was created and manufactured, well, was developed in 1927 and was manufactured all the way before World War II. And during the World War II, that was the main light machine gun of the Soviet troops. Like, think about that. Like how bad? Just say. Um, Max Kanev. I don't think it will be possible to assess relative efficacy of newer and older equipment on the Russian side. We just do not have enough information of what equipment inflicted which casualties. I mean, like, okay, you kind of just taking, well, I think this is more like a philosophical question that you're saying, okay, we cannot, how to say, we cannot understand anything. Okay, well, that's not how the world is trying to work. Thomas Rossoy, is there an overview of what kind of weapon branches have caused the most deaths of soldiers and civilians? The most branch that kills the most is artillery for both sides. That's the most, call it, effective killer. Okay, well, there's something in Arabic and I don't understand it. Do you think Russians are regrouping for a second attempt to surround Kyiv? No, they're not at this point. No, they want to have some victory. So far, they a little bit demoralized. So they believe that they can achieve it in Donbas, and actually, the way it looks, they're not far away from that. They may come back later to Kyiv once they will have big achievements in Donbass and in south and east, but not right now. Um, Francisco Arena, I hear a lot of Russian troops are very demoralized. No, this is more of well, okay. How to say? They not. Mm, the better way is demoralized. Like, it needs to be explained. It's not just straightforward. They feel like they are betrayed by their own top. That here they sacrificing, they fighting, they dying, they believe in this, like, we're fighting around against the world and we're doing this right thing by cleansing Ukraine and all that stuff. And then they feel like, okay, here's, we retreated from the northern Ukraine, like that, where they were sold by the politicians in Turkey, by the Russian top, right? And they feel like it's how to say, they all like I'm talking about the troops, right? They all suspicious that there is a lot of pro-West kind of like leaning people at the top in Russia, and they really hate them, and they feel like they selling them out. So that's in a way where demoralization is. No, they are mounting big attack right now in Izium. So no, if someone says go ahead and fight, they will fight. It's just um, they feel like, well, as I said, that was explanation. Swiss conquest. Is it really possible that Russia lost a quarter of its entire attack helicopter fleet? Okay, to be fair, we just don't know the original number of how many they had. So, like, we can look it up and then can be like provide like kind of like answer. But they did lost a lot of attack helicopters simply because they use them very actively. Almost they almost replace ground attack airplanes. So they lost good amount of them. Uh, and to add to that is that they could have lost much more. But this the Ka-52 is actually pretty good attack helicopter because it survives quite a bit. Where in other, like, this Me 28 or something that just gets, just basically blows up. The Ka-52 is its survivability is much better. um Warnings only counts what there is a picture, right? So exactly, so that's a whole problem, right? Because we discussed this before. Russian troops, they don't have smartphones or any um video recording equipment. They forced to give it away to their commanders before they come to Ukraine, right? So you don't have good. That's the whole problem with that system. The International Socialist. Does the Russian Air Force have fuel problems? No, they don't have any fuel problems. They very well supplied. Gregor Shvisek. I don't know if that's right. Russia had lost the war, but it's so far too stupid to. Okay, well, yeah, that's just a very emotional statement. Francis Karina, could demoralize Russian troops rebel against? Not quite. That's not in Russian nature. Um, John Lewis, that are you talking about the us and British and NATO said around 100, sorry, 10K Russian dead, 10 go. Like, honestly, nobody knows for sure. That's the whole thing. Like, it's all speculative. And even I said, okay, this is like very speculative number. Like, it's a very estimating number, right? So that's all. Like, um, and even like what I think is really even more important is total losses, which means wounded, prisoners of war, just sick, deserters, for all kind of reasons, right? Just get sick. So because really care how many able boots on the ground, right? How many dead is like? I mean, it's a like maybe you enjoy more dead people or less or whatever, but really what matters is how many boots on the ground and how many capable of holding the semi-automatic rifle. That's what really matters. And from that perspective, we think that they lost for sure at least 20K, for sure, and maybe probably at this point pushing 25. Um, okay, Kherson will be liberated in a few days. Well, we probably we don't think so. Poland won't free Ukraine and Russia. Imperial project down for the keys. Okay, well, we want to say thank you to Poland from Ukraine. Poland is doing a lot for Ukraine and really, really extremely helpful. Without Poland's support, it's probably would not be possible for Ukraine to fight. Francis Karina, do you any new Western supplied attack weapons in Ukraine? Um, I mean, all of those like switchblade, kamikaze drones, but like what really the one that's sort of more relevant is Switchblade 600. But from what I understand, Ukraine only got 110. I mean, this is really not much, and honestly, not changing the situation. Um, uh, in known 13, has Ukraine military been training in defense operational maneuver? To extent, it's training there is not great. Like, let's be honest with you. Um, how long do you think the war is going to last, or what will be the outcome? Okay, this is too speculative. We don't. I don't want to even try to say anything because it's just too speculative. Um, oh, before the war, yeah, there is a part of like general training. Yeah, they train for everything, but I will in my opinion, training is lacking in Ukraine, just in general, like as a not the amount of it, but more like a quality of it. Let's put this way: the quality of it is lacking. Um, Gregor Schwitschek is, if Russia will not lose this war, they will come back to Ukraine before next. Yes, they will come actually for Poland. So uh, get ready. Danny B, you said that the Ukraine military top made a lot of errors. Can this be because of traitors in the military hierarchy? Heard that two generals were dismissed. Yes, there is a big problem of that. That not even like military. It's not even so much military. Actually, is even more like around like Zelensky, president of Ukraine. There is a lot of people that seem to be have a strong connection to Russia, and they still around him. So that's a big problem there, in our opinion. Um, and it's not that this like just traitors, or it just like this. A lot of these generals are like old school Soviet type of people, and the problem with those people, nothing like kind of like they are in a way victims as well, is they trained by Soviet system not to be independent, not to think for themselves, not to have initiative, and wait for the orders, not to take any responsibility. So as a result, you have this is doesn't that's so as a result you have armies that only capable of winning if you have numerical superiority. And Ukraine does not have numerical superiority, so it'll be hard to win with this. Well, I would say in the long run, if really Russia wants to fight for long, this is going to be impossible to win in this way. Ukraine really need to kind of like fresh blood at the top there. Zoran Relic or Relich. Did the Russian army use and tested all of their, let's say, most modern weapons? Yeah, we would say so. Probably, they tested everything they wanted. Yeah, and yeah, we see like I think we even saw Su-57 there in Ukraine. So yeah, they definitely try to do that. I mean, makes sense. Why wouldn't you? Oh, actually, we haven't seen T-14 Armata. That's the only thing we haven't seen. What do you think about international brigades that fight with the Ukrainian army? I mean, that's great. That's like wonderful that people like. I mean, this is actually kind of it's impressive that people go and ready to die for the cause that like they believe that freedom was worth it and it's worth supporting. So I personally admire those people. To be fair, there's not many of those actually. Like there was a lot of the so it attracted also a lot of people who are call it like adventure seekers, and they just thinking it's a shooting game where they shoot and they're not gonna get shot. And when they see it's like actually a real war that they have not even seen anywhere else, like it's a true real war, like how World War II was and stuff like that, right? They realize that the chance of dying is so high, and a lot of them leave. And then also there is a problems on Ukrainian side when they, for example, ask them to sign like a contract for like I don't remember, but like was like I saw like 10 years or something crazy, or 5 years or indefinite, like that was not right from that. So there are two problems. There is Ukrainian side, and the second, I think Ukrainian side made a lot of mm, not like made a problem by actually concentrating them. And if you remember, there was a rocket hit in Western Ukraine when it killed probably like we don't remember the number, like around 100 of foreign volunteers, right? So you kind of like getting like feeling like you're not totally perfectly welcomed. So that kind of pushed away a lot of people. But there are still a lot of like really like basically you're getting really hardcore people, which also means that they're really like really good at what they do. Um, that okay. Sorry, repeat. How did you come up with that number seven? This is totally John Lewis. This is totally speculative number. Um, Based on these numbers we've seen from this first and second Army Corps, Like some other reports, how many Russian troops lose in attack, let's say in Mariupol. So that's where it's very speculative number. So I wouldn't say like, oh, I know it, like, hey, I'm ready to like put my life on the line. This is just like kind of like a hypothesis number. And more it's coming from like feeling that like seeing how many like Ukrainian sort of soldiers die, and you probably think this is kind of some more or less mirror side. So it's very speculative, right? It's very like we if you want to like factually go after this number, there's we cannot support it. Coach King, I think they are use regular radios, even can listen to what. Yeah, like it's terrible actually. Both sides are terrible. They use actually cell phones to coordinate both sides. So that's it's kind of like tells you about the general, and that's reflective of general technical level of the average, call it not soldier but the serviceman of the army, right? That it's not that great, and that's a whole actually problem for Russian army, and before it was for Ukrainian army, that they could not attract a lot of you know uh, people, capable people, like capable people don't go there, like and this is like, don't take it in a wrong way, but like a lot of like what I see, a lot of Russians like soldiers, regular soldiers, they coming from socially disadvantaged backgrounds, from like villages in the middle of nowhere. It's actually very, I made it like on purpose, like to see, like count how many like soldiers coming from Moscow, and I there was, I think, zero. And then how many coming from Saint Petersburg? I remember just one. And like going through the like huge list of soldiers and seeing like people from like in the middle of nowhere, from Urals, from Altai, from like really like basically social disadvantage. Like basically you kind of pressed to go to army because you don't have any other options in life. And to extent was um in Ukrainian army because it was kind of treated poorly since, especially since 2019. And a lot of capable people just quit. They came back right now, but that was the state of Ukrainian army before the invasion. There were significant problem with the quality of people there. Um, Sergey Raksha, do you have information about bridges in Chuguyev? Hold on, Chuguyev. Okay, so from what I have seen, that bridge was blown up by retreating Russian army. So basically, they moved to the other side of Seversky Donetsk. So it's what, let's say it. Yeah, it's the eastern side. So the western Chuguyev is on the western side, and on the eastern side there is kind of like a village or whatever it's called. I don't even know if it's right, if it's village or a small tiny town called Bashkirka. So they moved to Bashkirka. They blew up bridge after themselves and kind of like basically blocked Ukrainian army from from actually having any offensive. That so hold on. So if you see, this is Chuguyev, right? So they probably this units here, 138 and 144s, are pretty worn out, so mostly capable of just defending operations. So they just kind of, and here they attacking with their main forces. So this is, if you cut this off, you will just force them to retreat regardless from this from the Izum bridgehead. So they just decided, okay, let's just blow the bridge and kind of like provide strong support from Ukraine, like against screening against Ukrainian side. So that's kind of like what happened in Chuguyev. Uh, so this is why. So can UA attack Kupiansk without the bridges? So this thing, this what we wrote, like what we drew here, is probably not realistic at this point because the bridge is blown up. And from what and Russian troops literally prepared, standing again, on the other side, and they will just shell you. So that's why we wrote this saying, hoping that it's not expected in this, like Russian troops don't expect anything here, and maybe potentially similar to Russian troops here, you can find because the terrain is kind of similar here as near Izum, that you might be able to find a fort here, and then you kind of just go from here to Kupiansk. And even if you do not gonna get to Kupiansk, but create enough threat so that then they have to kind of pull back and retreat. That really, like, they lost basically a week or maybe even more, and that's already enough to even like destroy their plans. Um, uh, Henrik 4. Are the Russian watching your channel to take decisions as you provide better information that they receive from internal? No, they have better information from internal sources. That I can guarantee you that, and Ukrainian side as well. They know much more than maybe analytical side. I mean, they're not stupid either. Like in my opinion, Barak Pinhas, why don't Ukraine just mobilize every able man? They did, but there's not enough arms. The weapons is the problem, and the whole organization is a problem. Yeah, so that's a problem. Oh, okay. Well, MMA, you so wrong. That's all I can say. I came because I was curious how the fighting was going. Okay. The Riddler. They are training mission to come up by NATO. Offense and defense is pretty much the same. So this whole this NATO training. In a way, we see it's a form. Like Ukrainian troops kind of take the form, but really don't get the essence. That's kind of our take on this. It's just subjective again. John Lewis, on March 24th, Pentagon and British mod said conservative number. Um, yeah, we're probably even still more conservative than Pentagon. um, because if let's say they were like 10 or 12K dead, right? That really means that's about probably 36,000 of wounded and another like prisoners, deserters, sick. That's another, let's say, I don't know, like let's say 8,000. So you have 44 plus 12. That's how many? Like 56. Like that's a quarter of Russian troops. Like if they lost that much, they would stop being able to have any offensive actions in Ukraine, like at all. They would start to be on defensive and start to kind of basically Ukrainian army could then kind of start to push them back. And it's just not this is not happening, and so we don't think this is that many. Um, should Ukraine limit its ground operation to the Donbas? Well, I mean, but the Ukraine is not someone who can choose in this situation. The initiative is on the Russian side, so in a way, Ukraine is just reactive, unfortunately. Mm. Then Gregor Schwicek, they don't have gear for all volunteers. Exactly. So that's the whole point. Swiss conquest. Do you think that Russia can modernize all tanks quickly to use in Ukraine as replacements? They kind of like don't really need much of modernization. They kind of like they used as is, honestly. Like Ukraine mostly uses them as is as the Soviet tanks. Scary but true. Like those people who those crews are pretty much like kamikaze teams. Um, so they yes they have uh, Ural Vagon Zavod. Basically, it's a like huge tank producing factory. So yeah, they have capabilities, and the factory was modernized. So they purchased brand top notch Western equipment for manufacturing. So it's in a top notch state. It's not like like people used to like see like old Soviet like this terrible factories. No, it's like top notch. Is kind of like a BMW factory. I mean, not as great as BMW, but like it's like, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to like modern auto factory. It's mostly robots and stuff like that. I mean, it's not as great, but it's in pretty good shape. Um, well, D8 niche. What evidence do you have to support such a statement? Okay, I don't know which statement you refer to. Henrik for is Z the last letter of the alphabet means that Russia. Okay, okay, we're not going into this emotional stuff. Jeff, any idea how Ukraine will manage to feed their forces and people? Yeah, Ukraine has no problems with food. It's like probably like the best place on this planet for food. So we're not concerned about famine in Ukraine. It's like, well, it can. There was famine in Ukraine 32, 33, but it was created by the communists. So this is only can be, created by the government, to sort of say, but otherwise, not in the world. After more than months of fighting, many places have been looted and food is scarce. No, food is not that bad. Like, I mean, yes, where there is a fighting, the Russian troops just prevent uh, food from coming there, right? So they're preventing supply, and so there is a problem. But right now, it's like these places are getting flooded. There's tons of volunteers from other regions of Ukraine that bring food. Food is totally not a problem for Ukraine. Like even like, let's say if anyone thinking about, like as a volunteer bringing food to Ukraine, don't do that stuff. That's not what Ukraine, like, totally doesn't need food. um Swiss conquest, so Olga Buran, no, no, even the modern version of the IT series is basically just a paint job. Okay, yes, that's a good point. Paint job, that's a good expression. The only true, like, new tank is T-14 Armata, but one thing, it's super expensive, and it seems like with even with all those new equipment, Russia has a problem of like making them in quantities. Dana SPG 152 minutes from CZ will be phased out. Know how? So I think so. This is question from, I don't know if it's right, Josip Sliskovich. Um, I think actually Ukraine bought those from Czech Republic or from Slovakia. I don't remember. Um, not, but there was no news of the actually transfer of those self propelled um, well, vehicles. I guess we can say that. So no news on them. Actually, good point. We totally. So that was actually important to for us to actually check it. Christopher Cantrell, can Russia maintain troop levels? If so, how long? So they trying to right now. They doing kind of like they scraping bottom of the barrel. We discussed this that they have basically they are releasing about 130 to 150,000 of trained conscripts like right now, and they try to incentivize them to sign a contract and go fight in Ukraine. And we think that probably they will be able, with all of the propaganda, to probably get another 20,000. So they will probably plug the hole in their troops with this people. But this is kind of like they're getting to the bottom of it, because they also pulled their troops from, like, occupational troops from Georgia. We're sure that they did that from other probably regions. They couldn't do it from Armenia because Azerbaijan was threatening to attack Armenia, so they couldn't do it. Then they cannot do it from Central Asia because the Taliban is threatening to attack. So they tried to pull it from, like, they pulled it from Kaliningrad. This is the Königsberg, right? The thing that they control from Germany, or it's Polish. But in what I'm we saying, they pulling even like from the Pacific Ocean, right, where on the coast there against Japan. So we see like 155th Brigade that was near Kyiv, west of Kyiv. So it was actually from the Pacific Ocean, right? So they pulling everything they can at this point. They kind of get to the point that, like, okay, that soon there won't be much to pull. I mean, unless you do mobilization, and that's where effectively, if they want to win this war, they probably will have to do it. um Hank Zwols, 2Q. How important is American intelligence for Ukraine? Okay, Do you think Americans will be in Ukraine covering Russian weapons system and technology? And if so, which would that be? Oh, so we don't. Uh, there is not much of sort of technology in the Russian weapons. They may just kind of like out of cure, like you just want to know, like your potential enemy, like how it works from that angle, right? So just kind of know it like in detail. So it's more something like that. Um, I mean, no intelligence hurts, so it's great for Ukraine. It's only question, is Ukrainian top able to effectively actually utilize that? That's where we probably see more of a problem. Who is the Anon 13? Who is the overall commander of Ukrainian forces in the Donbas? We don't know the name of general. Honestly, we don't. We kind of like don't really focus on the names. That's just, we don't think it's, well, unless we actually see like a capable person, right? If the person we see like, okay, he's proving that he's capable, then like, okay, then we start paying attention. Like if it's just like, okay, just this huge number of them, like Ukraine has like probably like if not the same number as Russia, like a number of generals, or like something very close. So like a lot of them are honestly like not competent in our opinion. Patrick H. Jung or Jung. Do you think that Putin believe that Ukrainians would cheer about the invasion? Well, not like cheer. Well, some part like he thought that some of them will, like let's say 10-20%, and the rest will just silently accept it. Just they basically that they don't care. Like they're just kind of like silent majority, like just silent. We don't care. It's okay. It's fine. Putin, no big deal. That's how he saw. That's the reason for better preparation and only no 200k soldiers. In a way, Russia was um, scrambling to attack. Right? It kind of like used what it could to master, what it could master. So it wasn't like, oh, we prepare, like they have like 900,000 soldiers in the army, right? Half of it is basically all kind of like basically fluff that doesn't honestly, probably bureaucratic machine, like and logistics, right? And supply that like not truly usable in terms of like actually attacking forces, and probably even more, probably like more than like 500,000, and only you have like 400,000, and basically half of it is actual troops that can be used for, like they always like they permanently ready, right? So they can be used, and the second half is most of them are conscripts, so which, as we discussed, you cannot use it unless it's war. So they just use everything they could. So there is this is just that's kind of what it is. Tryson Milev. I saw video of men nailed on. No, oh my, okay, that's just emotional stuff. Gregor Switchek. Russia is always killing the intelligence in other country. Um, correct. They're just cleaning up any potential resistance. That's a point. Yes. Penguin in a suite. It's called Russification. They have been doing this forever. Yeah, that's how they work. You're right. You got it. Garage Logic. Look for Katin Poland officers. Yes, that's right. Yeah. So this is the yeah, modus operandi for Russia actually hasn't changed for past like 400 or 500 years. This was even done by Peter the Great. So don't, yeah. So it wasn't, it's always was there. Olga Buran, not unless they acknowledge they are at war and bring conscripts. Yes, that's right. So I think Olga Buran really gets, like we tend to agree with him a lot. So from what he's saying, Omega Ultima, у тебя реально интересный акцент. Okay. Well, thanks for the compliment, I guess. Uh, Henrik 4. I always ask myself how Hitler could exist and be supported by people. It's interesting watching Putin being Hitler and supporting by some people, humans. It's again emotional. Like yeah, you can kind of learn. Like, yeah, I personally didn't think that war is possible in this way, and it is possible. Actually, you realize that like people don't change. Let's put this way. Like the way they were like 500 years, it like all of those atrocities and all that stuff, it can easily happen again. We just kind of were a little bit living in illusion, all of us. Okay, let's just not discuss this emotional stuff. Triple X Amsterdam. All prayers to the wars in the Ukraine. Okay, thank you for that. Gregor Schwicek. Russia want to get some success prior to 905. Okay, yeah, that's just this just kind of like speculative theory. We don't I mean it really doesn't matter if it's 905 or whatever. Uh, I think NATO will have to give the Ukraine tanks and artillery. And well, that will be helpful, but they are afraid at this point. Gobran, I agree, especially older. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of kamikaze sayings. Emin Agayev. Do you think Russians will stop if they occupy coast side of Ukraine and continue what they well maybe for now temporarily, like maybe even it's like for 6 months, maybe for 2 years, for 3 years, we don't know. But no, they will continue chewing because if you're really saying this started in 2014, have they like they got the Crimea, right? So like Ukrainian top kind of basically like gave it to Russia in a hope that Russia will stop there. Did it work? No, it didn't. They started like chewing at the Donbas region, and now they want to chew even more. So no, they're not gonna stop. Thomas Rossoy, how effective has Russian tools been, and what extent is the system being used? So there are two parts to the be to like sort of word effective. One is the actual capabilities of the system, which is TOS one, and then actually the other side, right? How dumb people on the other side, right? If people on the other side are not dumb, the effectiveness of TOS one can be brought almost close to very low number. And this is not speculation. This is we have seen kind of how to say tests, uh, like how like basically of explosion of the rocket in the buildings and like literally putting meat and seeing how much meat, like what meat was got burned and all that stuff. If you intelligent, there you have very good chance of actually surviving that thing. And it is expensive. This like the rockets, they cannot. They first of all don't have many of those because they're expensive. Like they take a lot of basically chemicals to throw out, and it gets expensive because magnesium is not cheap, not cheap metal. I mean, it's not gold, obviously, but you need a lot of it, and it adds up very very easily. So they don't have many of them, by the way. So you know, so they use it very selectively. They cannot just like shell at will with TOS one. No, it's more like for the show. um, but if it's used like properly, it could be a very dangerous weapon. But it's mostly against lightly, like basically infantry in that. Let's say if you got into trenches, that's already like probably you removing, I don't know, like more than 50% of the casualties. Probably could be even 60-70% of the casualties. So, but if the infantry stands in the field, and they not kind of like not properly how to say entrenched and stuff like that, and you have trucks around, you have all of these BTRs. Yeah, there's going to be devastating effect of it. But it's the same as with any this multiple rocket launching system. That's why we said it's a two part, right? It could be dangerous weapon is properly used, and the effect could be magnified is the if the the object, the other side on which it uses is stupid and doesn't know how to protect itself. um Troitsa Milev, which Russia will donate nuke. Yeah. Okay, let's just do actually only questions. Steve Pollack, can you discuss the US strategy and tactics observed in battles at Lukyanivka, Trostenets, and Male Rohan? Can we expect repeats on the Eastern Front? Those, no, like I don't know, to be fair, to be honest with you. All I know is the general tactics and how these big columns were stopped. And this is what I discussed before. usually what happens is they attack them with either Ukrainian Stugna or Javelin anti-tank missile. Then they stop, and then they being shelled by self-propelled howitzers, and that's kind of how the whole, like, basically a strategy in a nutshell to deal with this, like, large groups of equipment. um, from what we're understanding with this Malarogain, it was kind of bloody attack on Ukrainians. From what we've seen, because there were high casualties on Ukrainian side as well. So it doesn't seem it was, masterpiece of a military. Trstenet seems to be much better, and as we discussed before, 93rd brigade is much better. So but we don't know, unfortunately, details about it. Just from the Lukyanenko, yeah, there might be good, might be sort of what we think is Trstenet is a good example that worth learning more about. But we don't know much. Samuel IP, how much armor can Russia produce to keep up with it was there? Well, first of all, it has like 10,000 of tanks that like really need to be a little bit refurbished, and they can go into battle. So they don't even need to totally produce right now. It's more question of like enough people, enough crews to man those tanks. So they totally don't have problems with equipment. Like we hear this like in the West, they're like, oh, Russia is going to face problems with equipment soon. No, they don't have problems with tanks, aircraft, cannons, no, they don't have ammunition. Totally don't have problems. Yanislav Kirikov, what is your expectation about next week's of war? Okay, well, that's very speculative. I don't know. I really don't want to do speculative stuff. Do you believe that Ukraine will hold the advance of Russia? Yeah, it doesn't look great. Let's put this way. It's the biggest concern right now. It looks really terrible, to be honest. We don't think the pocket is happening, but what we think is probably going to happen is they will be forced to withdraw, and those are extremely good defensive positions. And then once they withdraw with it, like basically next attack by Russian troops can destroy a lot of Ukrainian troops as a result, because they don't have good defensive positions anymore. So yeah, it doesn't look good at all. Let's put it this way. Gregor Shwishik, Russia has a problem to produce new tanks. No, they don't have a problem. Asaf Shalev, it seems like US might send their drones to Ukraine. What similarities and differences do you see between drones and planes? Well, first of all, you have big difference is reconnaissance drones, right? And actual like attack drones. Like Bayraktar is attack drone, and they good, but there is no quantity of them. First of all, and then Russia is starting to learn how to. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's like a very simple. How to say, from like airframe. It's a very primitive thing. The advantage of it is this navigation system and like the enemy sighting system. That's what really makes it good. Uh, but there's nothing else there. Attack drones just Bayraktars there. There's nothing else to say about that. So you cannot even compare it to anything. In terms of Russian drones, so for some reason, like totally ineffectively used by Russia. Like they totally like they have a lot of them. Like I think Orlan and stuff, but they not really kind of like the amount how many they have many more than the Ukrainian side, but it's totally not efficiently utilized in our view by Russian troops. We don't know details why, but that's what just like kind of like impression we're getting so far. In terms of reconnaissance drones, what is being used is like kind of like commercial drones a lot by Ukrainian militia, and like DJI. Like I mean, it's still kind of commercial drone. So there are like we saw like entire truck packed with these DJIs. So like they use also commercial stuff. So and they not like truly like long distance. I mean, they somewhat, but what is really lacking in our view, at least from Ukrainian side, and Russians seems to be having that, but they're not really using it, is actually not so much drones, but more like a airplanes like UAVs that can fly on long distances. Like, well, by long we mean like at least 10 kilometers, and better like 20 kilometers. So that's where there is big gap in Ukrainian on Ukrainian side that is not not helping. But they try to to fix it, but you making like they placing orders everywhere around the world and stuff like that, and but it takes time. So um Olga Buran, Osmail IP rumor has it neither one factor is already facing difficulties. Yeah, that's just rumor. Honestly, with like they're not that dumb to like be so unprepared. The only thing is chips. Yes, that's the only problem for Russia are microelectronics, right? All of this chips and stuff. That they having problems. But we would not be surprised if China is supplying some of it. But even China doesn't have it. It's really about Taiwan, and Taiwan definitely not supplying. Then there is, yeah, well, we mentioned about that there is that Ukraine was producing like 50% of the world supply of neon gas that's used, or argon, I don't remember exactly, that's being used in the manufacturing of the chips, and there will be some problems there, like in the whole world chip supply chain. Sion agreed. I don't understand why Ukraine concentrates heavy equipment. That's just the target. Yes, yeah, we. That's why we think it's not a very, like, just to say very politely, unintelligent. We can say more about it. And the bigger zero. Okay, okay. So refugio Kareli Ciao. Okay. Um. Okay. Gregors, you are abusing the situation. Okay. Raymond, May 12th. T72. Okay. I think you're talking about this Czech equipment. Yeah, I mean it's small amount, like it's just not gonna make a difference. Um, okay, from what we've seen was just five in the uh, on the train, just like, but I mean 56. I mean this is nothing honestly, and Bempe is honestly is a it's just it's not great thing in general in the first place. It's kind of terrible as well. So, and then those T72 is, think about this. They don't have this I don't we don't know how to say it right in English. Um, anti well, it's not anti tank, but that those extra defensive layer, basically those tiles. We don't know how to say it in English proper way, and we don't want to go into long explanation. Samuel, I'm what the fuck? Okay. GVN, does the announcement of weapons supply to Ukraine has any purpose? Why is this information shared with Russia? I don't know. Partially, people still hope that they can deter Russia with that. I don't think that will work. Wika 111. I think the man from Czech at Georgia Boldness. Yeah, from so yeah, it's coming from Czech Republic. Yes, that's right. Well, maybe just for like first sort of tranche of supply was five, and the more is coming. But really, honestly, it's what we saw is that T72 is not in the fighting condition from the perspective of the, at least, and this is not like a like super duper technology driven war, but like that is like totally, even like it's totally not I would say not acceptable. Mm. So yeah, so like even like, but the whole point is Mikov 36, that they can, like, Czech Republic can send 70 T72. Okay, well, the whole point is the what makes, because basically all of these T72s, T64s, T80s, they obsolete tanks. What made them kind of like sort of acceptable on the battlefield is that they had those styles as a defense, extra layer of defense. and those T-72s from Czech Republic don't have it, and that's where the problem is. PDX Guy 52 just being helpful. Read artillery. Artillery. Sorry, we're trying, and like tell us like if we're still not doing right. I don't know. Artillery. Hopefully we're saying it right. Sorry. Some guy. Do you think that Russia is even capable of encircling air forces in the east? Um, Maybe not, like as we said, like even like okay, threat of cutting off supplies, you have to retreat. Like it's even like just from the threat. The same idea as we were talking here about attack towards Kupiansk. What would you do here? Yeah, you probably will not be able to encircle this actually three divisions plus two brigades at least. That's what we know, but you will create a threat for them, so they would have to withdraw back, and that's what this whole thing is about. You don't even need to like actually encircle. You're creating call it realistic threat, credible threat, and you get what you need. um yeah, that was like that's what I was saying, that they don't need to totally execute. They can just threaten, and that's enough. Vika 111 that needs communication equipment and optics and reactive. Yeah, so this is okay. So probably right way is reactive armor. That's probably what how you say it in English. Um, yeah, Poland has about 1,000. Okay, well, but they also don't have reactive armor. We're almost ready to bet. Scion, all T-72 don't have reactive armor exactly, and advanced sights exactly. So that's the whole point. So basically, you kind of still need to upgrade those tanks. I mean, it's good to have tanks, but you still need to to do. And Ukraine, yeah, we don't know if you facilities in Ukraine capable of doing it at this point. Before, yes, but right now a lot of them were destroyed. Um, yes, thank you for saying it. Like UK, well, I'm learning reactive armor. Yeah, and artillery. Hopefully, I'm still saying it right at this point. Um, yes, so Scion, they are mostly targets for advanced targets. Yes, that's correct. Yes, so Olga Buran, yes, it's called Ural Vagon Zavod. Yes, it's in Nizhny Tagil in Urals, Ural in Russian. Olga Buran, how do you guys make the names glow, by the way? Okay, I don't know what you mean. Ammunition is in turret, so cool down position are bad, so cool down. Yeah, ammunition is not like it totally in a turret. It's kind of like this kind of like if you remove turret, there is like a this area where the hull is connected with the turret is that's where there's kind of like a circle of that ammunition for the automatic loading system, and that's where the problem comes from. I mean, it's a good idea in terms of automatic loading system, but then they're not properly protected, so the whole thing blows up. Um, Belom 29. I often hear about Russians regrouping to encircle Ukraine. Yes, and well, they already trying to do it. They attacking in Izum. So, but they yes, but they doing more. They trying to bring as many troops as possible to accomplish to conquer Donbas. But can you afford to go faster? No, from what we're seeing, they like it. They it's actually kind of scary to see how they lose time that they don't have. Uh, okay, we don't know what they're gonna do. Okay, so John 5, which is better, auto loading mechanisms or human loader for tanks? I mean, auto loading is definitely better. It's that is actually better in older Soviet tanks as an idea. It wasn't probably quite well sort of executed, right? Because probably some limitation in the Soviet industry that kind of like didn't quite work it out. But as idea, that's why T-72 is lighter and has very similar armor to like much larger, much heavier Western tanks. So there's definitely big plus in it. Paul, Eduard, Czechs also keep sending machine guns and bullets, high quality ones. Yes, but like I mean, realistically, you're not gonna stop tanks with the machine. I mean, it's helpful. It's and Ukraine is grateful to everyone who helps. There's no question about it. Um, Russia has no resistance. That's why as the okay. Uh, um, Vika 111. Well, I think the Russian politicians wanted to be misled. That's the whole really answer. Okay, guys, we're probably gonna be, but it's really was long. Let's just do a little bit more, like people who didn't really ask. Ron Schuster, Russian army would lose badly to NATO. Okay, well, probably, but let's hope. Well, I don't know. Maybe let's. It's better if that happens. Um, David Schwab, giving the number of switchblade drones, do you think they will have any effect? I mean, anything helps, like right. Nobody's saying like, oh, they're not helpful, but 100 drones, versus I don't know, whatever, 2,000 tanks. I mean, well, not tanks, but like even like BAMPAS, all of that stuff, right? So you need to destroy. Like, I mean, they're not gonna change the course of the war. Well, and that's what is the most important is the 600 series, because 300 is kind of like, I think it's more like against the infantry or soft armor, like light armor vehicles, and really the 600 is what you really need to attack tanks. Uh, Sion, yes, Ukrainian special forces. I think there was like 8th regiment and a 3rd regiment, so there are like 2 regiments there. To our knowledge, they were participating in it, but to be, yes, they were very helpful. Like I mean, nobody's saying like everybody contributed it. But what we think is that it was it was thanks to Ukrainian militia that was truly stopped, because they created the necessary numbers. Because there was like think about it, it's like 90,000 troops in, we think it was at least like 30, 40, maybe even 50,000 of Ukrainian militia. Without that, probably the Ukrainian army would not be able to stop it. Okay. Vadim Gershon, how many soldiers are going to be moved from Kyiv on both sides? So as we said, like they removed 90,000. Well, probably they don't have any more 90, like authorized strengths in 90,000. They didn't have 90,000 anymore. Probably like less than 80, like 75, 78. So that's what they removed. And Ukrainian side is super slow. We're still seeing 58 brigade floating around near Kyiv. So really don't get it. Henry Cruz, have you listened to the recordings of the Russian soldiers talking? I think they all made up, unfortunately, by Ukrainian propaganda. We don't believe those. Um, Olga Buran on their phrase. Okay, Gavan Tenham. Please forgive the question has been asked already. Okay, you didn't ask any questions, so feel free to ask, because there are certainly some disadvantage, and some people are taking advantage of the situation. So I do ask people who like Gregor Shwichek, you certainly uh like like please allow other people to participate. Let's put this way in very diplomatic way. Um, Vika, okay, Vika, I think you also we're gonna like a little bit like we'll try to answer questions of people who did not really have opportunity to ask. Gavin Tenham, do you think that previously Russian learning people living in Ukraine have not become anti-Russian? Okay, this is gonna be like a 1 hour conversation, because it's very complex. It's not a like simple like primitive answer. It's, if you really want to understand it, it's long conversation, and I think it's just gonna take forever. But yes, there's definitely some, there is some of what you're saying, but it's much more complex than that. Paul will bombing Red Square. Okay, they just not ask this like emotional, honestly useless questions. Not questions, but even making the statements, because they don't really solve any problems in this world. Um, yes, Stuart Estley. The tactics and terrain around Kyiv were an advantage to Ukrainian Qs, but now in the east, will they have the same effect as Russia? Line of supply is shorter and harder to. So yes, in a way, you're absolutely hinting to the right point. That Ukrainian had like totally advantage. It was perfect for guerrilla warfare area. And actually, the part of it why Russians even withdrew it, even sort of like they decided totally not stay, because in a week or so it will get green, so it will be even like many times more better for guerrilla warfare. So that would be, it would get much more devastating for Russians. So that's another reason why they decided to withdraw, because they started realizing they're just going to get slaughtered there. Now it's actually polar opposite. In the east, it's more really about more like a flat, not as flat in Donbas region, because there are like sort of like areas with like a pine trees there, like but that's not like, it's not forest, like forested terrain for sure. But maybe like in the area of like northern Donbas and Kharkiv region, it's still kind of like semi-flat, so it's kind of like in the middle. But really, like in the south, it's like flat, like a table, honestly. And there's almost no tree, like it's only like human, like basically like thin line, like one like single like line of trees just like planted by people. I mean, it's nothing. And it's all like visibility 20-30 kilometers, totally flat agricultural fields, so just tall grass. It's totally disadvantage for Ukraine, for let's say Ukrainian militia. um okay, Agabran, you had enough questions. Sweeps, you really not behaving. Okay, now it's turning into just India Supian. I don't know if I'm like totally like, at this point it's kind of late and I'm really, my brain doesn't really work that great. Are there any effects for the foreign fires in you? I mean, anything helps, like, right? So let's just understand this, like any little help, even those 10 switchblade drones helps, like any little bit helps. So like, and Ukraine is grateful to all those people who help. Like, let's just not kind of say, oh, they're not helpful. No, that's not true. Everybody's helpful. Um, hmm, okay, is there any? Okay, Dave McCullough. Do you think Russia will secure a corridor to Crimea? They already did it, and yes, they want to keep it. Like that's a whole, like that's a big part for Russia. They want to secure it and they want to keep it, and they already did it. So they kind of like a little bit happy in a way. Um, Okay, let's any Hamim Ahmed. Do you think the retreat from Kyiv means Russia will use chemical? No, this is just like conspiracy stuff. Mateos, why do you think that the oh my god? Sorry, we're not do this like political debate here. Um, okay, Ching Chong. U.S. Institute of Study of War says Russian troops that withdrew are very low morale. Uh, no, we mentioned about how it is. They feel like they betrayed by their top. They not low morale in terms of like, oh, if they feel like the top is behind and let's just go back fight. There is enough there. I mean, yes, that's not the top of at the beginning when they thought that they can do anything, but they still in the fighting spirit. Let's put it this way. Anton Fedorov, is there any benefit for Ukraine to attack the north of Kharkiv on Belgorod? I don't know. I think right now, Ukraine needs to save that front line in Donbas and specifically do something about Izium, because it's gonna turn into total disaster, and that's gonna be really bad for Ukraine. Um, okay. Okay, anyone who, let's just gonna take like last few questions. Miguel Marquez, who do you think is doing better in the past few days? I think they kind of like 50-50 all the time, in a way, in our opinion. Um, um, any effect for the okay with this last request question? Mark, well, do you think about how big Ukraine? part. Yeah, they like Russia wants to take the whole Ukraine, Mark. That's the whole point. So don't think that this is just about like Donbas or whatever. No, this is whole Ukraine. Socials, do you think that the Stugna Pay is a very powerful tool for? Yes, this is actually a good question. It's actually really good tool. In a way, it's not like better than Javelin, but it's like it has advantages in terms of you can shoot from it remotely. So you basically you don't need to. It doesn't the rocket doesn't need to be on you. So that really kind of means like you can do really good ambushes, right? That's the really big advantage of it. And it also shoots at like 2.5 kilometers, so you save, right? So that's a big advantage of that thing. The problem is like you can even see that some of them have like Arabic like letters on them that Ukraine didn't like since 2019. Ukrainian government decided not to buy like almost like very few of them are there, and so they had to seize uh, like units manufactured from like some Arab country. I don't know which one it is, and they had to put it in Ukrainian army. So that's kind of tells you like the whole government situation there, like how they think and how they basically don't really think. Okay, Mariupol. Basically, things are getting worse. We're actually gonna do actually small update, like really 5 minutes after this. So, HP Safari. Good evening. Please excuse. Oh, sorry. We actually kind of like. I feel like I'm totally like brain dead at this point. Um. Okay, guys. I don't see. It's becoming a little bit of a so thanks for everyone, and I'm just gonna do really like quick 5 minute update about mostly just a Zoom and Mariupol about that 260 or 70 Ukrainian troops that surrendered there, and that's gonna be it for the day. Okay, thanks again for everybody for joining. Bye bye.